I'm Heather Anderson, and I am Vice President of Programming and Acquisitions at ESPN. I'm formerly the Assistant Chief Counsel in the Disney Legal Department. And this is...
Hi, I'm Ryan Harrison. I am a trial attorney and an employment lawyer with the Weber Law Group.
And both of us are members of the Council on Access and Fairness for the State Bar of California. And we are so honored today to get to spend some time with one of my favorite colleagues here at the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm, Rhonda Hjort.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So a lot of the young people who will be watching this video today don't know that the umbrella company, the Walt Disney Company, actually is a parent company to a bunch of amazing companies that they are probably really familiar with, like ESPN, where I am now, and Lucasfilm, where you are. So we want to give them some insights into how you got here, what a typical day looks like for you, and some inspiration for their journey into our profession. So with that, I think Ryan's going to ask you some questions about your journey here.
Okay.
So my first question really is about your history. Where did you grow up?
Well, okay. I grew up overseas. My dad was in the Foreign Service, joined when I was 2. So I lived in Bolivia, Brazil, Mexico, Portugal, Japan, Hong Kong, and then came back to the United States to go to college and law school.
Oh, wow, that's quite a journey. Where along in your story did you actually decide to become a lawyer?
So both my parents are from Philly, which is where I was born. And we would often spend our summers in Philadelphia with my aunts and uncles. And, as a teenager, I'd have these aunties that would say, "Girl, you sure know how to debate and argue. You should become a lawyer." And I used to think to myself, what are you talking about, right? I never thought to be a lawyer, but they would say, no, you could be really good at this. But when I was growing up, all the lawyers in my life were the ones I saw on TV, and they were all white men.
Me too.
So it was nothing I ever thought about or took seriously. And I majored in history in college, African American studies. And after I graduated, I was a social worker. And as a social worker, I started working with migrant farm workers here in California and their plight. Usually it was men who worked in the fields and being deported, and they had U.S. citizen children. And there was a process at that time where you could stop a deportation proceeding through an administrative law proceeding, which meant you did not have to be a lawyer. You could, as a social worker, apply for a special certification. And so that's when I began to advocate for people and found that I loved it and I was natural. But I could only advocate so far in the court system because in the administrative law system, you could only take it so far, and if you lost, you had to appeal to the courts, and then you had to find a lawyer. And that's what motivated me to go to law school after I graduated from college, to kind of continue my mission in life, which was to help others.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. So I want to take you back to high school, because a lot of our viewers are young people. They're in high school, middle school, maybe even elementary school. And so in high school, what was life for you like in high school?
A lot of
Especially
fun.
with all the traveling from all the different countries.
No, in high school I was in Portugal. It was a lot of fun. I have nieces and nephews that are in high school, and I think it was typical of that. You got to get your homework done. You were thinking about your friends and getting together. I was just a regular old high school kid, certainly not thinking about becoming a lawyer or anything like that.
And in high school, were you involved in any clubs? Did you do any extracurriculars?
Yes, I was involved in dance, primarily dance and theater.
Okay.
I have a creative side, which is one reason that drew me ultimately to end up at a company like Lucasfilm. But yeah, those were my main extracurricular activities, theater and dance.
That's wonderful, to do theater in high school and then end up at this amazing place.
Yeah. And in college, I took a lot of film courses, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Mainly because it was fun. You had to get your credits. But that's also, you got to follow your passion and what you're good at. Like with my own kids, I've always told them, just study what you love, because if you do, then you'll excel at what you're studying. So
what's your favorite Disney film? No, we have so many to choose from, and I know you don't want to be biased with your Lucasfilm stuff, right?
I know. I love that question. I mean, our audience, we talk about Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm is Star Wars, okay?
Right,
Because some
that's
people
right,
don't
that's
even
true.
know what Lucasfilm is. They know Star Wars. So, so, you know, I run the legal department that creates the Star Wars magic. But my favorite film, I gotta say, is Black Panther.
Yeah.
You know, I can't help it. I live in Oakland. I've lived there all of my adult life, and you know, the seed and the germ of that film comes out of Oakland, and I could continue to talk about it forever.
You know, I could too. I'm from Oakland too, so near and dear to our hearts. It's like,
And I'm from right across the Carquinez Bridge in Vallejo.
All right.
So this is a Bay Area crew.
That is. Okay.
All right, so for our listeners, you have went through so much adversity in your life. You had to buckle down and put in the hard work to get where you are today.
It's really hard.
And so what I'd like you to share is the times in your life where you've really had to buckle down and engage in that hard work and demonstrate that grit that you needed to achieve. And so can you please provide an example of something that you had to do along those lines and share it for our audience, please?
You know, when I think about grit, there's a lot of grit that it takes to get to this point. But I can start with graduating from college, majoring in something I loved, you know, African American history, and not knowing what I was going to do next, because it's not like there was a job out there for somebody with that. And it was studying for the LSATs, right? It's just the basic exam to get into law school. And I had to really buckle down. Right?
It's a tough exam.
It is super tough. And this is just getting into law school.
Right.
And focus and be determined. And I was at a point in my life where I knew I wanted to go to law school, but I didn't have the luxury of affording law school. And at that time, I was already in my relationship with my husband. I did not have the luxury of being able to apply to a bunch of different law schools. It's like, I got to get into this one law school. It's here locally, and I got to do well enough on the LSATs. And it was hard. You have to study. But be disciplined.
I hear you. And so when you were going through that process of having to figure out how to do well on this, what I call an esoteric test, the test that's, when you're going through it, it's kind of hard to understand why you even have to do it.
Right.
But you have to.
Right.
What was going through your mind during this process of, I need to be good at this thing that's so difficult?
You know, the first thing that comes to mind for me is it's a competition, it's a game. You know, it's bubbles that you have to fill in. And how do you master that game, right? And so how do you get the skill set, right? So, you know, you take, I took a class to help me kind of figure it out. But sometimes you can psych yourself out if you take it too seriously, right? But you got to take it seriously enough to compete. And that's what helped me get through the LSATs and ultimately the bar. The bar exam in California was also very tough, but I took it like, you know, just something that you have to master, like a sport. Not only just physically be in shape, eat right. I mean, it's the simple stuff, right? It's literally the simple stuff, so that you're at the sharpest point in you're peaking at that point in your life when you take whatever the challenge is.
Well, thank you for sharing that advice. And you went to one of the best law schools in the country. So you did well.
I am really proud of where I went. King Hall, right? I that is where I wanted to go to school. Yes. You know, it was the school that was founded based on the legacy of Martin Luther King.
Yes.
And I was bound and determined to get into that school and figure out how I could.
And I went to undergrad at Davis too,
so
we're both fellow Aggies.
Yeah.
And so after it was all over, after you got into King Hall and you became an attorney and you put in all that effort, all that hard work, and you saw it to completion, how did it make you feel when it was finished?
It's like winning the championship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. But it's the way you feel when you're done. It's like, hallelujah. First of all, I did it. You know, and then of course the family. All those aunties and uncles who
that
said,
were rooting for you, praying
rooting
for you.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, you were right. Now what? Now what? Okay, because you get the degree, you pass the bar, and then what?
And you have a new mountain to climb. And so I'm going to pass it over here to Heather.
Yeah.
I was going to say that now what is a good segue, right? So you did so much dedication,
Yes, hard
commitment
work.
to the journey to
Yeah.
get here, but
Yeah.
look at the reward.
Right.
You are the head attorney for the Lucasfilm family of companies, right?
Yep.
So you told our listeners about Star Wars, but it also includes Industrial Light and Magic,
Exactly.
and Skywalker Sound,
That's
and just amazing companies that not only fans adore, but the industry adores, right? This is the leader in the space on so many things that other companies come to. I love when I'm watching the credits at the end of any other movie studios, films, and you see that they are leveraging our services to make their films better too. And so you and I, share this history of like, we didn't know a lot of lawyers growing up. We weren't thinking about that. And what we thought about a lawyer was what we saw on television.
That's
I think still young people think it's litigators only, that they don't see all the things that go into your day to day. They only see the court piece of it. So tell us a little bit about what like a typical day, and I know there's no such thing as a typical day in your role, but choose your favorite day, what a day might look like for them. So.
Yeah, I mean, Heather, to begin with, you're absolutely right. Most people think of lawyers as people in court, but most lawyers are not in court in front of a jury. And my job
Brian, most days,
except
I
for
think.
Brian. Go for it, Brian. You can tell us what it's like to be in court. But for me, it's managing our day-to-day legal issues and deals. So what does that mean? Okay. A lot. So, all those movie stars, all the directors, the writers, there's a contract behind that. And so, I manage a team of people who negotiate those contracts, who work with the agents for these folks, who work with their lawyers. Those plush dolls, those video games, Battlefront, whatever you play, there's a license behind that. There's a deal that needs to be made. So a typical day for me is working with our business clients on structuring the deal, whether it's like, we want to hire Ryan Coogler to work on this. Okay, let me call his people and make a deal for that. We want to do a new video game, Battlefront 3. Okay, well, let's work with, the developer for that game to set up a deal. And it goes on and on,
We want to make a new land in the parks and Disneyland and Disney World.
Yeah, so my team and we worked on that, that doesn't just show up, right? Like there's a lot of deal making that goes on beyond that. And the thing I feel about a legal degree is the sky's your limit. You never know. Like I had no idea. I went into law school to be represent the people, right? And I did that for many years before I went in-house, doing civil rights law and that kind of thing. But you can do so much else, right? And that's the beautiful thing about a law degree is it creates an opportunity to explore whatever dream you have and just have a basic skill set. Because what law school teaches you is how to speak and how to write in a convincing way. In a way that you can also advocate for others.
And how to critically think and think outside the box.
Yes.
Which you have to do a lot of in this industry because the industry is ever evolving and changing.
That's
too.
right.
So, Star Wars, this franchise has been around for a really long time. And the mediums in which our fans enjoy it have changed over time.
Yes.
We talked about the parks. We're talking about our series on Disney Plus. Like it's changing from linear to streaming and all different ways. So talk to us a little bit about how you've seen it evolve and your practice have to evolve because it's changing where we consume it as fans.
Exactly. It started just as movies, as you say, Heather, just in the theater, and then sort of evolved into animated TV. That's the people who are fans of ours will remember Clone Wars on Cartoon Network or Rebels. And then from there, when streaming happened, then we went into streaming, which is a whole different way to produce content, right? It's on what we call a stage or a volume. But we've done video games, as I mentioned. We talked about the parks. But 2.5 weeks ago, we launched on TikTok.
Awesome.
And like at the end of this week too, we had over 1 million views already.
You did. Of course
you did. Because the consumer consumes media in so many different ways that you could never imagine. Like when George Lucas created Star Wars in the 70s for a theater experience, who would have thunk it would be, on TikTok or some sort of exactly.
That's true.
A minute or so,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
lots changing all of the time. So you get to work with a lot of famous people, a lot of stars. Even the people who run, Lucasfilm are really famous in this industry, But again, talking about the umbrella that Lucasfilm sits within, you interact with your other Disney colleagues across consumer products and probably environmental and real estate and all kinds of these. So maybe you can share with them a little bit about how this works when you are leading in a space that touches so many things, how you have to work and have great relationships with your colleagues internally too to get things done. So.
Yeah, that is so important. When I interviewed for this job, and basically, if it's not clear yet, General Counsel of Lucasfilm, I was asked whether I could be a quarterback. And people who know me well know I'm really into sports, right?
Come spend some time with me at ESPN.
I would love to, Heather.
Okay, we'll do the next one down there.
But I mean,
I play college ball too. So I love football.
All right. Yeah. No, that is awesome because so it was the General Counsel of Disney, who's the parent company, who conducted the interview when I interviewed for the job, and he was like, "Can you be a quarterback? That's the role." And what does that mean? I'll tell you in a sec. I was like, of course I can. You get the ball and you figure out who to pass it to, right? And that's the key is, Heather, when you talk about like interacting with all the different groups, even within Disney, it's issue spotting, which is the other thing you learn in law school. I mean, you're literally, it's a skill set development. When people go to law school, they're thinking, I'm learning information. I've got to remember that. No, you're developing a brain function, a muscle that you need to use. And the skill set is issue spotting. And so the key thing is to know, first of all, have good judgment, integrity, and know when to throw the ball and who to throw it to. So when you're in a huge organization like Disney, a lot of what I do is, when you asked about my day-to-day, it's developing relationships within the larger company. People, what do you do? Well, I get up, I talk to Heather, for example, in your role or what have you. But that's the other thing. Any good lawyer, regardless of whether you're a trial attorney or you're a lawyer like me, it's all about people relationships, right? Like if you're a trial attorney, Ron, you probably can speak to this. You got to relate to the jury,
absolutely,
right? The 12 people there. So, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I think here people ask, what does a day look like? And I'm like, I'm addressing a different issue, spotting a different issue, and creatively problem solving every 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
There's a new topic every 30 minutes.
Absolutely. In a space I love.
Yeah.
Because this is entertainment.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out what to do about BB-8 over there.
Right.
Or, I'm just trying to bring it down to a level, or we got this new droid. So the issues, that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps the enthusiasm going. And it's also bringing along the next generation. I'm far enough in my career now where I'm looking to like who's coming in behind me. I feel very privileged to have this job, especially as a Black woman in America.
Yeah.
And
we're very grateful that you have it.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, and then like who I got in the door and who am I bringing with me, and how do I develop? So I do, like, part of my day is not only kind of figuring out how to solve whatever the current issue is on whatever our production is or what have you, but it's also sponsoring and mentoring the next generation. So I do spend a lot of my day with one-on-ones, with not only people on my team, but other people through the mentor and sponsorship programs we have at Disney.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been fortunate to be in rooms with you when you are advocating and mentoring people internally and externally. And thank you for being so dedicated with your time to do that.
You.
No, it takes a village. And
it does.
So happy to be part of your village.
Tell you, no, it takes a major village, and we got to pay it forward. And I feel incredibly fortunate that and privileged, honestly, to have gotten to this place. But I owe it to the village that raised me, right? My parents, as well as my extended family, my aunts and uncles and grandparents. And one of the reasons my parents moved overseas is because they didn't want me to feel psychologically limited by growing up Black in America. I mean, I can get deep.
Well, we're going to actually pivot to some of that right now.
I don't know if you want me to get deep, but, my dad and my mother were like, do we want to raise our children? Because, I was born in the 60s. There's a lot going on then. A lot of turmoil, right?
Yes.
We had all the assassinations, I won't even go down that deep path, but, as young parents, it's like, wow, is this where we want to raise our daughter and son? I have a brother who's 2 years younger than me. And, but we're here now to say, even if you don't grow up overseas, we're here to help lift that psychological barrier that I think a lot of us feel, especially growing up in this country.
We do want to talk about that a little bit.
We definitely want to talk about that.
We definitely have been talking about all the fun things that we do.
Right.
And it is, most of the time we're having a great time.
Yes,
but similar to the journey that you had to take for the LSAT and the bar and being resilient and determined in the face of some barriers, and those don't just go away when you get to corporate America in any company.
They do not.
And so I think Ryan wants to ask a few questions about how you address that when you're in this situation, so that our young people can be armed with those tools before they even start the journey.
No, that's great.
I do, and before I ask my question, I just want to preface it with the context that sometimes we deselect ourselves from an opportunity.
That's right.
By the way we think about who we are and where we fit in. Like for example, the idea of, I want to be a lawyer. Sometimes the thought doesn't even cross our mind because we don't even see that for ourselves. And we're limiting ourselves from this wonderful opportunity to bring out our own special gifts.
That's so true.
And so my question for you is, has there been a time when you were in high school or growing up where you were afraid of not being able to accomplish a goal? And if so, what was the goal and how did you go about overcoming that fear?
That happens all the time, even to this day. We'll start with, I love the way you phrased it, Ryan. We self-limit ourselves, right? It started with even thinking about going to law school or being a lawyer. Okay, then I got over that hurdle. I'm now a third-year law student, getting ready to figure out what I'm going to do next. And I didn't apply. You go to law school, and there's that interview season in the fall, and those big law firms. I happen to be in the Bay Area, and it's a bunch of tall white men, at least when I was kind of coming along. I didn't apply for any of those jobs. I had already self-selected myself out of going to big law firms, right? Which was important to do to learn the experience that you need to be able to end up in a job like I did. So I was talking to my mom, and she's like, what are you doing after law school? I said, Mom, I don't know. I want to, do my social work thing. And she said, girl, you need to pay your bills before you save everyone else. You need to get out there and apply for those law firm jobs. And I thought to myself, but I don't want to work there. Like, one, will they even pick me? And two, will I feel comfortable? But it was, again, another nudge. And sure enough, I ended up at a law firm, a well-regarded firm in the city where I got a lot of trial experience. And it was a very good firm. But it was, again, not sure, self-doubt, limiting myself, but then having the courage. And it's two things, right? It's courage and resilience. And with courage is don't be afraid to fail, because I found that was part of what was limiting me, was I didn't want to be rejected. So,
and you must have been good at what you did, because at a firm in the city,
yes,
and you're getting trial experience.
Yes,
they just don't put anyone up there.
No,
for that.
no,
they don't.
No.
So that's an ode to you and your skill set, and because you put yourself in that position, it sounds like you thrived.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, this is what I thought. I thought, like, it's all about the GPA. It's all about, all these metrics or measurements. But once you get whatever it is you need, like you need to pass the bar, you shine on who you are. So many of us have innate talents that our village sees. Like, we started with my auntie saying, girl, you know how to argue us under the table or whatever. It's that skill set. And Ron, you probably appreciate that as a trial attorney, right?
I love it. Yeah.
I see people who did really well. I mean, I have colleagues that not only did really well in law school, they went to Harvard and whatever else, but they don't necessarily have the innate skill set. So even, when I have an internship program, advertising here, Lucasfilm has an internship program for law students every summer. Apply. Please. If you're in law school, 1L, 2L, don't worry, apply. But what I'm looking for is, I don't care if you went to an Ivy or not. What I'm looking for is that innate skill set, that confidence in yourself, the oral skills. And that doesn't come across, in a bar exam, honestly.
It doesn't. No.
And something you said earlier about, being concerned about making a mistake.
Yes.
Brian and I talk about, to young people, they're concerned about imposter syndrome. And I think it's really important for young people to know everyone makes mistakes.
Right.
And we actually, if you come in the door thinking that you know everything, we're going to be concerned about that. We expect that you are here to learn and grow. Everyone is still learning and growing. And so it's really important. I'm glad you said that.
And you learn so much more from your mistakes than anything else. And imposter syndrome, I love that. Because the when I interviewed for this job, the person I was replacing was a very successful white male, right? And I was like, I'm a total imposter, because he was my role model and he was very supportive. I really liked the guy and we did great. But I was like, I'm never going to be able to fill his shoes. And I still have a visual of his shoe size. And I was talking to one of my mentors, and she was like, don't try to fill his shoes, rock your own. And it really resonated for me.
And you're rocking some fly shoes right now.
Yes. And to this day, but oh my goodness, did that touch home? Like, and I love it, because that's an example of like being afraid, that I don't fit in, imposter syndrome, whatever is, and that's why it's important to be a model. I mean, honestly, I am at this point, right? Because I'm an example of what you can be. Okay.
And that's why we wanted you here. An example that you already are to us. And we want all these young people watching to know that too. Thank you.
So here's this, right? You have excelled and achieved so much in your life. You know who you are. You know what type of shoes you like to wear.
Yeah, I do.
And you wear them well.
Yeah, thank you.
During your ascension, I'm sure, just like all of us, there were people who were around you that said, you can't do that.
Oh, I know.
The naysayers, the haters, right? How did you overcome the bad advice or the doubt that they were trying to cast onto you?
Yeah, I when you ask that question, I think of a dark, lonely tunnel, because at certain points in my career, I kind of felt that way, because you get your promotion and what have you, and then you have all these people who like, why'd she get that? And those haters. And I remember being promoted among my peers at one point in my career, and they wouldn't look me in the eye or talk to me, because they thought, among them, there was one or two who was like, and her? Why? Why not me? And honestly, it comes down to grit and hard work. I remember having to prove myself, right? Which you do constantly. And being the first one in the office and the last one out of the office. Where do I get my confidence from? Over preparing. If you are prepared to the max, then you draw your confidence from that. Like, I know more about this than anyone else in this room, and you got to kind of caliber that, right? You don't want to come across as like, I know more than anyone else in this room, but that's where I draw my confidence from. It's preparation. And
preparation is key at every element that you talked about, from the LSAT to the
Yes.
bar, all through law school, and daily in the practice. So,
and it's discipline. Whatever you want to shine at, whether it's law, I'm going to go back to my sports analogies because I love my sports. It's discipline, right? And, and it's worth it in the end.
So preparation and discipline, those things nurtured your self-confidence. They gave you the tools you needed to do well.
Right.
Were there any, role models or people who you saw in the legal or in and around the legal field who you said, you know what, I like their style, I like what they're doing. Maybe I can try to emulate that myself.
Okay. I'm thinking about that mainly because it's in the legal, because my role models were my mother and my father, right? Like, my mom never went to college. She met and married my dad when she was 19. She's the smartest woman I know, the most intuitive woman I know, or a person in general. Let's not even leave it to women. And my dad was he was a diplomat, right? So, you learn how to maneuver, which you have to, whether it be verbally or otherwise. But legal role models, the number of bosses I had kind of coming along, and they're the ones who gave me a chance, right? Like, because honestly, when I was coming along, people were taking a chance in hiring a young Black woman, I came along in the 80s, right? There weren't that many, Black women that were lawyers in larger firms. And so my role models and what I emulate in my own career is people with, I'm just trying to think of the right word. I'm not sure if it's empathy, compassion, but openness, right? To kind of, that's what I look for. That's what my leaders were able to do for me, but that's what I look for in myself. Right. Is this ability to see that diamond in the rough. I'm not looking for the diamond. I want the rough. And let's buff it up.
You know what I see in that?
What?
I see courage.
Yes.
Because in order to be open, in order to take that chance and take a bet on yourself and what you see, you have to be courageous.
Right.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to hand it back over to Heather.
So you've got this really full plate at work.
Yeah.
But then I know you also have a family.
That's right.
And community things that you are passionate about. And so how do you balance all the work life, push and pulls to still enjoy what you're doing every day in all the aspects of what you do?
For me, you have to ground yourself around something, and then every other decision kind of comes and swirls around that. And it's always been family first. So even when, when I applied for the job at Lucasfilm, initially, I applied for the job because a headhunter came my way, right? Like, apply for this job. And initially I was like, but how is that going to affect my kindergartner and my third grader? You know what I mean? And then I didn't really take the job in the first instance. It took a while. But it's grounding yourself. And eventually when I did take the job, et cetera, there were major decisions that I made around the family. Do I move? Because when we were acquired by Disney, which is down here in Burbank, that was an opportunity to move and grow. I said no. And I feel like when we talk about work-life balance, life is first. Life is primary to this day. And that's what makes me feel good about myself when I get up in the morning, is I have taken care of my own. My house is in order, and now I'm going to go into the office. So we're in the middle of like returning to work and work-life balance, but I am the prize and the focus. And for me, it's always been family. So the balance is like
straight.
Yeah, the balance, like family. But and it shows that you can still be successful and people respect it. And the beautiful thing about a place like Disney is I've been able to thrive here despite,
It's a family-centered company.
Yes.
Our brand is
Right.
built on
Yes.
families and
Yes.
children. And so if anyone is going to understand that, it's
Right.
this company.
And
so.
I'm going to check it out, make sure they do.
Yeah,
Right?
yes.
Even
Hold
in
them
my
accountable
own
for that,
personal
yeah.
decisions.
Yeah. You said earlier that part of what attracted you to the law was the ability to advocate
Yes.
on behalf of people.
That's right.
And I know a lot of young people, that is still what drives them into a career in the law, is that ability to speak and help someone in situations where
Right.
they can't. Can you share with us a little bit about how you do that in your day-to-day job at the company, and then still outside of the company
Yeah.
too in other
Yeah.
ways?
So within the company, I advocate on behalf of let's start with my staff, but also who comes into my staff. In terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, a real big advocate within the company with regard to that. But externally, I do a lot of pro bono work still. I'm a social worker at heart. That's why I went to law school. I've never lost sight of that. My mom made sure I paid my bills. Thank you, Mom. She's not here anymore. I can pay my bills now with this job. But I still am very active in pro bono, which is another thing. When you become a lawyer, you have a skill set that you use at work, but you also have a skill set that really kind of helps the community.
Yes.
And so whether I still do pro bono immigration work, I do, and I'm on external boards too, just even like a children arts group, right, in Oakland, MOCA, Museum of Children's Arts.
Yes.
Yeah, board of directors on that for many years. Recently stopped doing that. But and prisoners' rights. There's all kinds of, Disney has a lot of pro bono programs.
We do.
And I'm all over those pro bono programs too. And I encourage my team to be involved in that, because we really need to give back. It's so important to me. And that's another key driver for me. It's family and community, and giving back to the community.
And I'm so glad you shared that, because I think young people think, if I go into a company, I won't have any bandwidth or opportunity to
Right.
help my community in those
Right.
ways. Even when we talk to law students, they say, I can only do civil rights law or go into public service. If I go into a company, I'll never have the opportunity to do that. So thank
Right.
you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We actually do that both in-house and give you space and time to do that, to follow the passions that you love outside of it. So.
And Heather and I are doing that right now.
Right.
We're volunteering. We're giving back right now.
Yeah, it's so important.
And that's what this video is about, is showing people that this is important. The young people watching this video hopefully have dreams and goals of becoming an attorney and going into this profession, but are worried about some of the barriers. We're starting to see that cost alone is becoming prohibitive, and they're thinking that this is not a profession that they can pursue. And we'd really love for you to share why you think it's an important profession, and particularly an important profession for diverse young people.
Yeah.
So if you could take us home with that.
Yeah, no, oh my goodness, it's such an important profession, especially for our community. When I think about some of my heroes, whether it's Thurgood Marshall. We can just go down a laundry list of people with a legal skill set that you need, not only to advocate for a community, but just in terms of your own personal growth. And why go to law school? Why become a lawyer? Because why not? I don't know. It's like, so many, especially the generations that are coming along, there's so much wrong to right in this world.
Oh my God, yes.
Let's start, and let's get the basic skill set to begin righting those wrongs. And when I think of going to law school, it's not about becoming a lawyer and practicing law. It's developing a certain skill set, which you can use in all kinds of different ways. All kinds of different ways. And that's what I'm thankful for about my legal education. It's the skill set I developed, not, the bar card I have in my pocket. I don't even go into court anymore.
Although we are appreciative of the bar card that we have in all of our pockets.
I love the bar card. And guess what? The bar card card opens doors.
It does. It
Yeah,
does.
like it was so funny because the other day I registered because you have to do continuing legal education, right? The other day I registered for a program and they're like, "What's your barcode number?" And I don't carry that around anymore because in my job I don't need to. And I was like, "What is my barcode?" But that tells you. I bet you have yours. You have yours memorized.
All the time.
Yeah. But no, I encourage people very much just to get the foundational skill set that you get by going to law school. I can't, I'm thankful.
One of my mentors said to me, I have never heard anyone say, I regret going to law school.
Well,
and
exactly.
I haven't either. Have you ever heard anyone say that?
No,
it's
and I have a lot of
tough,
friends.
It's hard, but no one has ever said they regret that decision.
No, and you don't regret it.
Yeah.
I have friends that never practiced law who I met in law school. They run businesses, they do startups, whatever, right? But it's the skill set.
It's that skill set,
Yeah, so.
Well, thank you for being such an incredible inspiration. Like I said, to those
You're
of us who
welcome.
get the honor of working with you on a regular basis, and for all these young people who are inspired by your time with us today, we know it was busy to carve out this time for us and your amazing days where you handle so much. So we're really grateful and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Rhonda.
And don't forget about our internships at Lucasfilm and Disney. If you're a 1L, 2L, encourage you to apply.
And thank you to the State Bar.
Thank you, State Bar.